Okay, we're back, and our special guest now is Cindy Bigelow. She's the founder and the executive director of Chosen, and this organization has blossomed and done really an incredible job. And Cindy, nice to have you back.
Thank you. It's
been a
great
while.
to be here. It has been.
For those who don't know, what is Chosen? What do you do?
We are a post-adoption support organization. We have support group programs. We support the parents. It's what happens beyond those who feel called to adopt. Not everyone is called to adopt within the church, but within the church we are all called to support those that do. And so there are a lot of discouraged parents, unfortunately, around the country, and adoptions disrupting in Christian homes, and pastors leaving churches because they felt called to adopt. They know God called them to adopt. Yeah. But then the kids that are adopted at older ages with trauma and abuse histories, they don't process things when they reach their teen years as being chosen. They begin to process it as being rejected. And those early years of abuse and feeling having been abused, and their identity and who the father is truly warped. And parents are struggling because we think love is enough, and we're going to raise them in a Christian home, and they're going to know the Lord, and He's our strength, and He is. All those things are true, and adoption is God's heart. So I'm definitely an adoption promoter. I'm on the board of Holt International Adoption Services, the world's largest and first.
So how big is this problem?
It's a very silent, huge epidemic that's happening around the country that's only just now being recognized. There's a book that just came out that is just going up the charts in the New York Times, and it's called The Child Catchers. And it's about, it's very much doing harm to the orphan care and the Christian adoption movement. And part of it is that there hasn't been initial support to the parents that adopt, but also to those that are adopted. It's not the same as when you and I were being raised. I have a brother that was adopted as an infant. And that's not that there aren't identity issues when you don't know your past and you feel rejected. And as I said, you know, as parents, as adopted parents, we call our adopted kids, we have biological unadopted. You were chosen. God, we got to choose you. He chose you for our family, and it's a precious thing to call them our chosen child. But when they reach teens in their developmental stage of thinking, reaches a point where they can think, oh, to be chosen, someone had to reject me first. And they begin to process their adoptions in light of rejection. And the lies of the enemy just get in and warp things. We're
just not prepared for that, are we? I mean, so you come alongside. Not everybody's called to adopt, but those who are, it's a special time. But I know people that have done this, and all of a sudden their world was turned upside down, and they just weren't prepared for the very thing you're talking about.
Exactly. And I'm an educator. That's my background. And as a parent, in the early years with our biological kids, I read and everything I could. And so the same happened when we felt called to adopt. Was I started reading everything. And I'm not just an educator, I'm a student. So I was observing the families that did well. And it was many in wonderful Christian homes were still having struggles. And I thought, what is it? What could make the difference? Lord, show me what could make the difference. And that's where I really felt that the credibility, the way the Lord reached my heart, was in a teen camp when I was, young. And I thought if somebody could come along and share what parents and pastors are trying to share, what God intends for their adoption, who they are, their identity, His love for them, if somebody could come along that could reach them in a way that parents and pastors and others can't, because hearts that have experienced pain and abuse, we know the response to pain is to harden our hearts. And so they don't receive the love of their parents or our Heavenly Father in all the ways that God intends, because it's hardened. And so if we could have adult adoptees who had a message, who could say, I understand, in a way that they said, I know what it feels like to feel different, to think somebody didn't want me, and to help them to process things like shame and identity. And where were you, God, when I was hungry and when I was being beaten, and when, where were you, God? And I found a little YouTube movie of this man who said, started out, found in a garbage dump 42 years ago. My life is a testimony to God's mercy ever since. And this was when we were doing the first large camp in 2007. And I contacted him and I said, you know, I had, by that time, I had no idea the scope, the needs out there. But we were having so many people who adopted from foster care sending their kids. And about 2/3 of the kids that come to our teen camp, which we'll speak about right now, and I thank you for having us in, are adopted from foster care. And in fact, 92% of all adoptions in the United States last year were from foster care at an average age of 8.
Wow.
It's not infant adoption that we're dealing with, and yet even the infant adoption have core issues that they deal with.
Yeah, especially when they get to that critical thinking age, you know.
Exactly.
All right, here it comes, August 16th through the 18th. Tell us about it.
Well, we are having a Touch by Adoption teen camp. Although this year our focus that we're adding is up to age 24, young adults, because the kids that started coming to our camp 6 and 7 years ago are now young adults, and they keep contacting me. We want to come. Can I come? Can I come as a counselor? And you know, we really need our counselors to be. Right. We train them. They do not have to have any experience with adoption. They just need to have a heart for serving, and they need to be mature in the Lord. So we're having these ones that were campers and now are, you know, 19, 20, 21, 22, want to come. Can I be a counselor? Can I be a counselor? And they're not ready for that. So we're doing young adults because there's a camaraderie that there's an well, it's a C.S. Lewis quote actually that grabbed me. Friendship begins when one person says to another, "What, you two? I thought I was the only one."
Wow.
And it's just, you cannot, words defy description of what happens at these camps, the way the Holy Spirit just steps in, and no matter what their story, whether it's a foster adoption, an international adoption, we have them coming that have been adopted like at 14. There's one coming who's only been in the country 2 years. She's 16 now, from the Ukraine. We have ones that are very, very few are infant adoptees.
So how do they get signed up and involved?
Well, go to choseninternational.org. Choseninternational.org.
Yeah.
And you have to have the ORG, and you have to spell the whole Chosen International out. And
Okay.
August 16th to the 18th at Camp Tadmore. But we have transportation from Southern Oregon. We have it from the Portland metro area. From a little show that we were on, 6 years ago with you, we had a girl from New Hampshire come. We have had, through that domino effect that happens when you get a chance to share and Christians share it with others, we had a missionary in Austria contact us, and her daughter was adopted from Romania, and she came to our camp. We had somebody send an email, information on our camp to someone who sent it to someone in Maine, who sent it to a couple that were living in Beirut, Lebanon, who had adopted kids from Bulgaria. And they flew out to Oregon. That camp was in the Portland area.
Wow.
We have kids from all over the country, 14 different countries represented as adoptees. And apparently, this is what I have found out, Chosen is the only, at this time, ministry that is specifically focusing on teens and their parents and providing support to them. And because the enemy wants to destroy what God began for good, and it's happening way too often. So
Chosen International, that's one word, choseninternational.org. Check it out. And again, the camp's coming up August 16th through the 18th. How can churches help or get involved in what you do?
For one thing, let families within their church try to, almost like a survey to find out how many, I think if it's not a conspicuous adoptive family, like our daughters are adopted from Korea, so people know, they know that right away, or if you have children of another race, people might ask or know that you're adopted. But with 2% of the adoptions last year out of foster care, many of those kids blend right into their families, which is a good thing and a bad thing too, When they reach teen years, a lot of times families are quietly disappearing from churches because there's a lot of shame. We parent our kids by what God has to say, His principles, and Dr. James Dobson, that we grew up on and raising our children. We've parented that way, but it's not working, and they feel judged when people try to tell them, well, if you would do this and you do this and you do this, and they've done those things. They've done them. It doesn't work because there's brain research. There's this amazing woman, Dr. Karen Purvis from Texas Christian University, who's done a lot of research, she's a research psychologist, on children who suffer early trauma and abuse and what it does to the brain. There's a Dr. Perry, too, from some Massachusetts, I think, someplace back east. There's a lot of research that's going on, and the processing, even though it doesn't maybe affect their intelligence in any way, the way they process things is rewired. And so parents need to learn new tools. We want to have well, we do have support groups that invites people from all different churches, but back to your initial statement, find out in your church in some way who is a family that has been touched by adoption and what way. Do you have a grandchild that was adopted? Do you have young children under the age of, say, 10? We are forming new support groups, and this fall we're going to begin one that is going to be a special focus. Here in Medford, there's a wonderful, wonderful adoptive mom support group, and a lot of moms, a lot of us really, when the kids are young, we want to learn everything, or we think there's no problems, you know, and it's, but contact us and we'll let you know information.
Locally, how do they do that?
Again, info at Chosen International or Cindy Bigelow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, check it out. And again, it's called choseninternational.org, and the camp's coming up August 16th, so you want to get all that information. And through that info,
it's just
Chosen International, where you go, international.org, you can get a hold of Cindy. Thank you for your passion and your conviction and your work, what you guys are doing. God bless you. We'll be right back.